The Constitution of the United States lets us do this. The Constitution of the great state of Texas lets us do that. And the Supreme Court of the state of the United States has weighed in and said that it is absolutely permissible to draw maps based on maximizing partisan advantage.
Texas Republicans are scrambling as Democrats finally have the upper hand. Brian Harrison here, a Texas state representative, went on CNN to whine and complain about Democrats breaking quorum, only to get completely stiff-armed by Caitlin Collins. I put a timestamp to the full interview in the description and as a chapter, so you can skip to that if you just want to watch the full thing. And while you're down there, hit subscribe. But here's some context. Republicans in Texas are desperately trying to go on a media tour in order to put the blame on Texas Democrats who have fled to Chicago in order to break quorum.
This is State Representative James Tallarico from Texas. If you're seeing this video, my Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab. Trump told our Republican colleagues to redraw the political maps here in Texas in the middle of the decade to get him 5 more seats and protect his majority in Congress. They're turning our districts into crazy shapes to guarantee the outcome they want in the 2026 elections. If this power grab succeeds, they will hang on to power without any accountability from the voters. But Texas Democrats are fighting back. We're leaving the state, breaking quorum, and preventing Republicans from silencing our voices and rigging the next election. We are not fighting for the Democratic Party. We are fighting for the democratic process, and the stakes could not be higher. We have to take a stand.
This undercutting move from the Democrats completely threw the Republicans off their game. They aren't used to an opposition party that actually fights back. Ken Paxton, the horrible attorney general we have here in Texas, put out a statement saying that he would arrest the Democratic lawmakers who fled Texas. But the Democrats are playing by these new rules that the Republicans have been making up, not whatever the parliamentarian says, for example.
The Texas House has issued arrest warrants for Democrats who have left the state to block congressional redistricting. As the Texas Tribune reports, the warrants apply only within state lines, making them largely symbolic, as most of the legislators who are in Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts. Texas House Speaker Dustin Burrows yesterday criticized the missing members.
They've left the state, abandoned their posts, and turned their backs on the constituents they swore to represent. They've shirked their responsibilities under the direction and pressure of out-of-state politicians and activists who don't know the first thing about what's right for Texas. To be absolutely clear, leaving the state does not stop this House from doing its work. It only delays it.
It's Gen X Democrats, mostly governors right now, not so much the ones in Congress, who have finally taken the gloves off, meeting the moment where it is at a fascist takeover, and finally hitting under the belt when the Republicans pull a dirty trick. This is the kind of Democratic teamwork that we need to see. Kathy Hochul, Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker putting together their private resources, like in the case of Pritzker opening up the hotels that he owns for the Democrats to stay in for free, and political resources like Hochul and Gavin Newsom counter-gerrymandering their own states in response to Texas.
And I have news flash for Republicans in Texas. This is no longer the Wild West. We're not going to tolerate our democracy being stolen in a modern-day stagecoach hoist by a bunch of law-breaking cowboys. Americans don't want a system that's stacked against them. They believe in fairness. It's fundamental. History will judge us on how we respond to this moment. But here in New York, we will not stand on the sidelines with the timid souls on the sidelines who don't care, will not invest their heart and soul into this battle. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
This is the kind of fight that we've been begging the Democrats to do for a while now. I mean, the last time the Democrats in Texas broke quorum, they returned back to Texas because they ran out of money. They didn't have the support of literal billionaire Pritzker. They should have. Democrats on a national level should have been playing this game a long time ago, because this is the kind of national mobilization that is so heartening for the voters to see. This is what it takes to break the Republicans. If the GOP wants to play this game, we got to show them that we can play it harder and guarantee that it hurts them a lot more than it hurts us. This user, Patrick Tomlinson, put it perfectly. He's responding to Polling USA, putting together a team of insanely gerrymandered states of New York, California, Illinois, Colorado, all gerrymandered to have zero Republican representation. Tomlinson says, ironically enough, our best chance to end gerrymandering nationwide is for blue states to gerrymander to such extremes that the GOP cries uncle and begs for the federal ban that Dems tried to pass in 2021. And he's 100% correct. We've got to keep the foot on the necks of these Republicans. And as we do, we'll watch them continue to go on mainstream media and squirm around trying to smear their Democratic colleagues. But it's not going to work, just like it didn't work for this idiot on CNN.
All bets are off. Everything's got to be on the table.
Everything's on the line here. It's not a gross exaggeration. I feel that in my bones.
Starting us off tonight is Republican Texas State Representative Brian Harrison, and it's great to have you here, sir, because as I mentioned, redistricting usually happens once per decade when the census comes out. So why are Texas Republicans doing this now?
Because it's the right thing. Quite frankly, it's something I think we should have done already and had it in the rearview mirror. I mean, look, the one thing you said that I agree with is the stakes really couldn't be higher. I mean, it is quite literally true, given the razor-thin margins in Congress and what could be coming up in the midterm elections, that our redistricting efforts in Texas could decide whether or not the United States Congress falls into the hands of the liberal Democrat Party. And as far as I'm concerned, the state of Texas and every elected Republican in the state of Texas should be doing everything we can to make sure that that does not happen so that we can support the Republican priorities, we can support President Trump's agenda. And quite frankly, there's a lot of sound and fury coming out of elected Republican leadership in Texas tonight. But quite frankly, we could have done things in the last several days to thwart the Democrats' plans to leave. The Democrats were on the floor 4 days ago. We had the Democrats, we had the maps, we had a quorum. This is a little bit not serious, what we're seeing right now coming out of the Speaker of the Texas House, who let them adjourn on Wednesday so they could go and strategize with Hakeem Jeffries on how they could flee the state. I want bold actions. I want them to be arrested, and there should be severe and serious consequences. But one thing I will grapple with is the idea that Democrats are now trying to come up with a way to counteract whatever Texas may or may not do. And it is the height of irony that these radical Democrats are fleeing to Illinois to hide behind Governor Pritzker. I mean, the only thing that Governor Pritzker has any expertise on, it's how to gerrymander a state. He may have the most gerrymandered state in all of the union. And just one statistic on that, Republican voters in Illinois make up 45% of the vote, but the maps Governor Pritzker approved and the Democrat legislature there only give Republicans 15% of the congressional delegation. So that's far more aggressive than the maps we're talking about here in Texas.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I want to get into that, but you just said we should have done this sooner. What is wrong with the map Texas drew 4 years ago?
I didn't say there's anything wrong with the map Texas drew 4 years ago, but in the last 4 years, well, I think we should change it. The laws have changed, the demographics have changed, the voting trends in the state of Texas have changed. And by the way, all bad for Democrats, especially down with the Hispanic vote down near the Rio Grande Valley and the southern parts of the states that are fleeing the liberal Democrat failed policies in droves for the policies championed by President Trump and Republicans across the country and here in the great state of Texas. So yes, Texas should do everything we can, everything in our power, to make sure Congress doesn't fall into the hands of the liberal Democrats in the upcoming midterm elections.
But do you have a problem if typically this only happens after the census comes out? Obviously, we see other states do this all the time. You mentioned what happened in Illinois, and that's a fair point to make there. But if that's how it happens, are you fine with other states, Democrat-run states, changing this in the middle of the decade as well?
Well, it's their prerogative to do it, but I mean, I do have to point out that I don't know of just about any major media, CNN included, that dragged Governor Pritzker on TV and asked him to justify the gerrymandering in his state, or California, where I'm looking at right now. Republicans have 40% of the vote in California, but they only give 17% of their seats to Republicans. Same thing in New York.
Well,
I mean, these are more gerrymandered than anything we're contemplating down here in the state of Texas. And quite frankly, what we're talking about doing is legal, it's constitutional, it's permissible, we should do it.
Well, what you're saying is it's bad when Democrats are gerrymandering. That's obviously what Republicans are being accused of doing. But when you say, that no one's covered it, I mean, CNN certainly covered it. I heard you say this earlier, so I looked this up. We've written many articles about it, and also it's been talked about on TV. Listen to this.
In states, though, like Illinois, Oregon, Maryland, Democrats are also engaged in gerrymandering congressional districts.
And as a result, Democrats have really tried to put Republicans in difficult places, particularly in downstate Illinois.
One possible reason for Kinzinger's decision, his Illinois district is being redrawn.
So I just want to be clear. We have covered it when Democrats gerrymander as well, sir.
Well, Caitlin, I got to tell you, I'm incredibly flattered the amount of time CNN must have spent fact-checking what I said earlier today to come up with those clips. But if those are the best clips you can find, then my point stand. I was proven correct because at no point was he asked to justify those maps. But here's the point. It wasn't that I was saying good, bad, right, or wrong, whether they could or should or shouldn't. The point is what we're talking about in the state of Texas is something that is constitutional. It's legal. The Supreme Court has said we can do things like this. And my main criticism of the liberal Democrat governors in California, New York, Illinois, and other places isn't so much the weighing in on the merits of their maps. It's the rank hypocrisy and the fake outrage. These Democrats, my Democrat colleagues that fled the state to go hide behind Governor Pritzker, they're not mad that states are engaging in redistricting to maximize partisan political advantage. What they're mad about, but they won't say it, they're mad that a Republican state is stepping up and doing it. That's the real problem, and that's the hypocrisy that I'm trying to point out here.
But to the point, I mean, Governor Abbott's not here right now. I'm not questioning him about it. Obviously, we'd love to have him on to talk about this, but you're here talking about it. We're still covering it, is the point. So I don't think you can say that it's not being covered. To the point that you just made a few moments ago about why this is happening, you said very clearly that it's because you want to make sure Republicans maintain a majority here in Washington in the House. Your governor, though, cited a letter from the Justice Department saying that 4 Texas districts were unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered as to why this is happening. So who should people believe about why this is underway? You or the governor?
Well, I'm here to speak for myself. And what I care about is working to make sure that the will, the interest, the desires, and quite frankly, what the voters of Texas deserve to have happen, which is their elected Republican legislature stand up and do what they want, which is make sure the state of Texas is we're the line in the sand for the future of the country. There's no doubt about that. As goes Texas, so goes the nation. If we ever lose Texas to the Democrats, the Republicans will never have the White House again. So it's incumbent upon us, people like me in the legislative branch. If you want to ask the governor a question about what motivated him to do something, feel free to ask him. But I can speak for myself as a member of the legislature.
I do think it matters why you're going into that special session to vote on this, right?
Well, the way special sessions work in Texas, he's allowed to put any agenda item on the call he wants, but it is incumbent upon the legislature to enact laws the way we see fit based on what we believe is in the best interest of the voters that sent us down here. I mean, Texas is no different. The job of legislating and writing laws, and that includes redistricting, resides within the legislative branch, and that's where I'm an official here in the state of Texas. And I know this is what the voters of Texas want. There's no doubt in my mind.
On that front, though, of your responsibility and what you're doing here, why is it your responsibility as a state representative to make sure Republicans in Washington hold the majority?
Because the hundreds of thousands of Texans I represent, that's exactly what they want. Because they know that the liberal Democrat Party is the party of bigger government, bigger regulations, less freedom, and they want what the Republican Party stands for, which is more limited government, individual freedom, secure borders, elections that are secure. That's what my voters sent me to Austin to do, and it's what I'm committed to doing down here. And then one thing, back to this point of why we're doing it, it's not that we're raising the stakes and the Democrats are coming back. I got to go back to this. The Democrats have been doing this for over a decade, and Republican states are just now catching up. And just one statistic that you got to let me say here is that 10 years ago, when the Republicans won the U.S. Congress with only 1% of the popular vote, we had a 45% electoral margin in the U.S. House, compared to just last year, where we won with a bigger percentage of the popular vote, right? But only 3 states, and that's because Democrats have been gerrymandering like crazy for the last 10 years.
But you can't just say it's just Democrats. You can certainly say Democrats do it. You pointed out with Illinois, and that's fair. But also Republicans do it too. And to that point,
I can say
a lot of Democrats. Actually, hold on, sir. A lot of Democrat-run states, I looked at this, are constrained by independent, nonpartisan redistricting commissions that were championed by Democrats. So wouldn't that undercut your argument?
Not at all. I mean, of course, the Democrats are the party of giving more power to unelected bureaucrats, but look how that worked out in California. By any objective measure,
the citizen-run redistricting commissions that are independent.
Citizen-run is the same thing as unelected to me, and quite frankly, California is more gerrymandered than the maps that we're talking about today in Texas. So I'm not saying that Republicans haven't engaged in partisan redistricting. I'm simply saying that over the last decade, Democrats have done it to a much greater and a much more aggressive rate than Republican states like Texas. And it's time that Texas gets in the game and does its part. And that's what I'm fighting for down here. We've got to get this done.
But your argument is just that you should all do it, not that when Democrats do it, it's bad, so when you do it, it's right?
Well, what I'm saying is if it's what the voters of our state want us to do, which I firmly believe that it is, especially when you look at the fact that they reelected President Trump with a 14-point landslide in Texas, it's something that we are allowed to do. And here's the reality. The Constitution of the United States lets us do this. The Constitution of the great state of Texas lets us do that. And the Supreme Court of the state of the United States has weighed in and said that it is absolutely permissible to draw maps based on maximizing partisan advantage. All the other Democrat states are doing it. The state of Texas should as well.
This man really curled up his evil Cheshire smile and said that Texans want the state representatives to pick who they represent and not the other way around, with the voters picking their representatives. The truth is, no one should be able to gerrymander, but his argument revolves around a childish tit-for-tat, the Dems started it excuse that isn't even true. The most severely gerrymandered states are Republican for the most part, with the South being extremely gerrymandered except for Georgia. And it was the Dems who introduced a bill called the For the People Act in 2021 that would eliminate gerrymandering. But the Republicans, along with one revolving Democrat enemy who seems to always be stopping progress, now it's John Fetterman, but at the time it was Joe Manchin.
At the Capitol this week, a lot of talk about voting measures that Democrats want to get passed. Many of them are wrapped up in a piece of legislation called the For the People Act. Now, this bill has passed the House and now sits in the Senate, where supporters got a gut punch just a few days ago. There are 50 Democrats in the Senate. 49 of them co-sponsored the For the People Act. The 50th, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia announced that he did not intend to vote for the bill. And with unanimous Republican opposition, that pretty much dooms the bill to fail.
And it makes sense that the Republicans wouldn't want to end gerrymandering, because by all estimations that I could find, if gerrymandering was made illegal, then Democrats would gain something between 15 and 30 extra seats. Republicans have essentially captured the government with a minority by gaming the system, and they don't want that game to end. Stay up to date on this kind of news that the GOP hates for you to see, right here at Really American. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.